Welcome to a brand new edition of the Huddle House. We just kind of threw this one together today. Needed to talk about some stuff because, man, what a weekend! Or it might not even been a weekend. I think they started like on Tuesday or Wednesday, and it's just been chaos ever since.
Yeah.
So had to get Ty on here like always, and then our guest, Jacob Metry, one of the main distributors of wealth in these past couple of days. So we got him on here to share some thoughts as well. So how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Great. Doing great.
Knew we had a special guest coming, so I had to put up some decorations and I really make them feel welcome. So I have my Metry Appreciation Wall behind me. We got this way: Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Lazard, and then Allen Robinson right there. So I got all the gang here with us. Everything that connects me and Jacob together is here today. So
Naheem Hines can kick rocks. He's left him off.
Only 4 pieces of paper. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. So whenever you win the league this year, am I getting like half the money, or how's that gonna work?
I've already given you a wall in my apartment, man. Like this is staying up right here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is a decoration. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I gotta admit though, it's not bad drawing skills for you, Ty. I'm kind of impressed. I'm not gonna lie.
Thanks. Yeah. Appreciate it.
I told him that you need to have your name in italics on his nameplate if he wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
It needs to be like, it might be smaller font because I mean Ty did a lot of the work, but I mean you definitely helped. So I mean you need the assist. Like, you know, whenever someone scores in basketball, you know, the assist counts too. So like it gets recorded on the stat sheet. So you need your due respect, Metry.
Ty, I'm gonna be honest with you though. If you don't win the league this year, I know you have no control over what the players do on the field. But if you don't win the league this year, it's the biggest letdown in fantasy football history. Like, honestly.
Okay. That feels like a tough thing to say as we sit here on July 31st. I mean, there's so much to play out. There's so much to play.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have one of the greatest teams I've ever seen, especially in a dynasty format. So,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I appreciate you saying it's a good team, and I appreciate, your help to get me there. But I think, like, at the same time, Matt has – we have so many things to talk about. Let's just kind of dive into why we're here, and we'll get to all this.
Don't make me more mad at you, Metry, by just not even mentioning me right now.
We had about – the real reason we're meeting here is because we had about, like, 5 trades, it felt like, last week that all had pretty big implications, and a lot of the top contenders in the league got stronger and we're only in training camp. The season's still over a month away from starting, so it was an odd time for such a flurry of trades to happen. But once one happened, it was just like a dominoes were falling. So I think we could recap the trades, or we could just start, because you did kind of kick off everything, Metry, with your deal to send Devontae to James. That kind of was like the snowball that got the avalanche going. So just why was it time, and what led to your decision to do it?
Yeah, and just a fair one, I might be moving around a lot because I got to like track down this new dog. But honestly, the James trade was, I kind of knew in the back of my head, like I was going to do his deal. I was just waiting to see if I could get the Nick Chubb part of it taken care of before I took that deal. And honestly, like Lucas kind of put some pressure on me a little bit, because I knew he was really going for that Jordan pick. And I could not let that pick slip out of my hands, because I know Lucas, he's kind of got like this, he's ticked off I didn't give him Jonathan Taylor. We can just call a spade a spade. But I had to get that pick, and so it was already time to go ahead and pull the trigger. So
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Can't let Lucas keep winning, man. You had to get one from him.
Yeah, but then Jake Clark really, he just did what Jake Clark does. So, yeah.
Well, we'll get there. But so I know you had to get that pick, but then was there just a catalyst? Like once one domino fell, you were like, nah, might as well go ahead and do it.
I mean, I don't think that anybody who talked to me throughout this process knew that I was going to blow it up. My team wasn't going to compete, and I had 0 assets moving forward in the future other than Trakener's pick, which wasn't enough for me to stay relevant after really this year. And it was just time for me to go ahead and blow it up.
Yeah.
And try and build for the future. So.
Well, it makes enough sense. And I guess just one question to kind of close it out then, just as you sit here today after so many of these moves have been made, like how do you feel about that decision? Is it a regret thing, or is it like I will play the ball where we have it now?
No, I mean, I put myself in that situation. I looking back on it, know that I sold Jonathan Taylor for much too little, which
that's debatable, but okay.
No, I did. I sold him for much too little, but I just, it was time. I knew that my team wasn't going to compete, and I mean, it's time to build for the future. Like Lucas is always talking about draft picks, so it was time to kind of, do what he does and get as many as I could. So.
Well, you got a second rounder in there too. I mean, it's not until 2025, but I mean, rebuilds take a few years, so that'll still matter. And then Amari Rodgers, I mean, who knows about him? I mean, he didn't do anything his rookie season, but he's young and you need youth. So at least he's a young receiver on a good offense. I mean, that's something. And they don't have very many receivers, so he might get some run.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember like when I was doing that deal with Nick Chubb with Ty, like I really, really wanted Allen Lazard, and it ended up being that like I couldn't even get Allen Lazard off of his hands. And I'm like, Ty, I've given you the best running back in fantasy. I'm probably going to give you another top 7 running back in fantasy. I'm like, help me out a little bit. Like, let me get some sort of saving grace. I gave you Allen Lazard as like a sweetener, and the first time, like, help me out. Wouldn't do it. So I was like, all right, whatever. I'll settle for.
He's stubborn, isn't he, Metry?
Well, I think I threw in the second round pick.
Yeah, I mean, we ended up getting. I think I'll have to pull up the text at a later date, but it was just like, I mean, just the stack with Allen Lazard and Aaron Rodgers, just like too tempting. And I'm like, it's Allen Lazard. Like, what are we doing? I mean, that was come on.
I was stingy with you. I'm sorry.
You were.
But I mean, at the end of the day, we got the deal done, and you got the draft capital, and we'll see how it plays out. But that was your moves, and then we also had Matt getting the deal done just yesterday to get Derrick Henry.
Talk about that later. We're going to these in order, Ty. But I just want to announce a quick moment of silence from me for the next like 5 to 10 minutes of the show while you guys talk about the Nick Chubb deal. I'm just gonna stay quiet and let you guys talk.
Not Matt. I want to hear your opinions on the Nick Chubb deal.
I don't know if you're gonna get him, man. You got him over text. I think the whole league got him over text.
Yeah.
I was admittedly salty. I did not hide that. When people said that, I did not take offense to it. I was like, yeah, I am. I was very mad that day. And I'm less mad now because I made a deal to sort of compensate for this lost deal, but it just felt like a week of my life that I got up a lot of hope, postponed some other offers. Don't really need to talk about them, but I actually had one with Ty that was pretty tempting. And I was like, I like Metry's more with Chubb. And it involved the same assets. So I'm like, I'm just going to see what happens with that. And then we can talk later, just kind of put off some deals, felt like this was going to happen, and nope, didn't happen. So that was a tough sting.
Yeah. And I can be honest with everybody now that it's all done. Honestly, the only edge that really Ty's deal gave over yours was the fact of me getting back my 2024 first. Because I know I'm not going to be good in 2024 either. And that's probably going to be at least a top 5 pick, if not higher. And so being able to have that back was kind of just like the deciding factor.
Yeah, I get that for sure. I mean, it makes it like it wasn't really that. It was more of a anger at just the duo of deals because you threw in that first almost as a sweetener in the JT deal. And I was like, that was a bad decision. And so then you pretty much give him Nick Chubb just to get that back, like to undo it. And I'm like, that hurts. Like, that's what hurt. It wasn't like in the context of this deal, like, by itself, totally logical, get what you were doing. But I had to almost look at it in a vacuum and be like, why did you like hand him Nick Chubb just to get the pick back that you threw in originally? Like, that's what hurt me the most, is like looking at him as a combination. Like, by itself, this was a good deal for you. I understand it completely. It was just the fact that like the assets involved were previously handed that made it sting worse, that like he just doubled down on the dagger in my heart as one of my main competitors this year, of just getting them for a price that like he shouldn't have even had the asset to begin with to get Chubb. So I'm like, that one hurt a little bit. I was hoping you'd go with my ideal so that, I can kind of get that running back to push me over the edge. But like I said, I'm happy, pretty happy now. So it all worked out, but definitely forced my hand. I would not have done the deal I did if this one didn't happen. So it was largely a chain reaction move. I was like, okay, I'm all in on winning now. I've been so aggressive this offseason to get elite, level roster. And Ty just did something to push him over the edge. Like, I have to do something that keeps me in that race.
Yeah. And I think you ended up helping me in the long term with the deal that you made. So
I texted you that. I was like, Metry, I just hooked you up, man.
You did. You might have hooked me up with hopefully a nice little receiver in 2023 that I've kind of got my eye on. Well, so as long as Chris sucks.
And I hear you there. My thinking on the trade was, I kind of like, I'd spoken with Matt because he and I, like he said, were discussing another deal, and he had mentioned this one. And I was honestly trying to push for us to do our deal before he did this one with you, because I thought it was going to like cause him to lose interest. And then when we were discussing if you did yours first, but it wasn't looking like it was going to work out. And then whenever you hit me up about getting your pick back, I was like, I still went back to Matt and I let him know again that we were going to be discussing it. And he was still like in the same position, which I understood, not wanting to commit to the deal we had talked about. So I was like, man, if these assets Metry's trying to move are going to like go somewhere, like I might as well try and make it my team, because I knew that it was going to put me over the edge. I had Lazard and Burks as my starting flex, and now I have Chubb and Robinson. Like it's a huge like 180 game changer from just the depth of my team and everything. So that's when I wanted to really pursue it pretty heavy. So
yeah, I definitely had the chance to stop the deal from happening, but like if I just done our deal, but it's fine. Like I said, I'm fine with how it played out, and I don't really care if people know. Like, we were discussing a deal involving Debo and CD, and my biggest concern, it also involved your pick, Metry. My biggest concern is Debo hadn't signed a contract. Well, and I didn't know if he was going to, hold out or have any drama, get traded to a worse team. I was like, until he signs a contract, I won't do this deal. And so I just kind of put him on hold. Like, I didn't say no forever. I just said no for now. I was like, we'll see what happens. Well, 2 days after this deal happens, Debo signs a new contract. So like, I'm like, well, the timing just kind of worked out for Ty to get Chubb, but if Debo had already signed a contract, I might have done the deal. So like, it could have stopped this whole thing from happening. But it's kind of interesting how it all played out.
Yeah, I think that would have been that one would have been tough. I feel like I definitely see where you were worried about, and I think CD is going to have such a big year, especially now that Amari's not there anymore. Like, heck, I've tried to get CD off of you in trades in the past, just trying to do that Dak and CD stack. And I think I've even reached out to you about another.
You could have had CD, man. I offered him and Dalvin Cook for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, you did. And maybe looking back on it, maybe I should have taken advantage of that. But I mean, the JT deal will go down in infamy as one that I definitely screwed up on for sure. So.
It happened, man. It is what it is. It's, can't hold it against you forever, man. You just got to move forward. It is what it is. I mean, and honestly, I'm kind of glad you didn't take that deal, because as much as I love Jonathan Taylor, that probably would have been an overpay on my end. Since like it's not like Dalvin's just some like sweetener, like he's probably a top 10 back himself. So like that would have been a lot to pay, but it's fine. But like I said, I just didn't want to trade CD that much. I was definitely hesitant, but he was offering me your pick, which is, you're right, it's going to be a top 3, top 4 pick. And I'm like, okay, like, and granted, I would have had to give him my pick, but it's probably going to be like 13 or 14.
Spilling all these details about stuff. There's no
what difference does it make?
It's just it's what's talked about.
Right, whatever. You're right. Let's move forward. There was also Dalvin and Jonathan Taylor and a bunch of other guys were in the deal. Swift was in the deal. Kelsey was in the deal.
We
I was throwing
the biggest blockbuster the league had ever seen.
I was throwing in
my
all my
gosh.
pros. It was I think he was throwing in Devin Duvernay. That's another just loaded receiver. I was throwing in Fuller. It was spicy, guys.
There was no depths to which we weren't able to go to.
My bad, Ty. My bad.
Okay, it would have been history, but we all are now after the week. But let's keep talking. Let's keep talking through the deals. What comes next after?
So after that one is, wait 1 second. After that one is between, this the Mike Evans deal. This was placed like 20 minutes later, and I'm like, so I get the Chubb notification that I'm at like an after work party thing. So just playing cornhole, having a good time. See that notification, ruins the party. Like I'm upset. Then I'm driving home and I see a trade has been completed. Like on the way home, I look at it and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man! Like, geez, it was just double whammy. Like this was rough from Jake, man.
Can I butt in with this? So before Jake made that deal, he called me, and I'm actually standing in a Marshall's with Kirsten, and he called me and was like, hey man, like I might be getting your 2024 second round pick back. Like, would you want that in a deal? And I'm like, for Mike Williams, like maybe if I gave you like a receiver in 2 seconds, I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'll do that. But like I knew he had to like make the deal first in order for that to happen. And I had reached out to Lucas about that pick, and nobody was willing to give me 2 seconds and a player for Mike Williams. And so whenever he called me about it, I was just like, yeah, I'm all for that. Go ahead. Sorry. But then I saw the trade of how he had to get my second back, and I was just like, what? I mean, I looked at that deal and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? That's so bad. Horrible. I'm like, you gave up Mike Evans. I'm like, dude, it was horrible. It was awful. And I'm like, how does Lucas continue to make his team look like Oklahoma City, but also have a good team? I don't get it. It's horrible.
Yeah, he's got 7 firsts and still has probably a playoff team most likely this year. It's terrifying. And not only 7 firsts, but he has your pick this year, which is probably going to be Bijan Robinson.
It's Bijan Robinson. Let's not probably. It's Bijan Robinson.
And then he also has Carter's, which is probably going to be top 5. So or top 6 or something. Like it's rough. Like Lucas is terrifying. And he somehow just got both firsts. I'm like, dude, Mike Evans, like, yes, he's a good receiver. Yes, he's probably going to be a wide receiver 1 for this year. But Brady's old. Mike Evans is 29. He's a big-bodied receiver. Big-bodied receivers are a little bit different than like route running, receivers where it's like those guys that are a little bit more versatile, they play till they're 33 or whatever and are still pretty good. Those big-body receivers, you look at what happens to Julio. You look at what happens to a lot of these guys. Calvin Johnson. I mean, granted, he had a terrible offense and stuff, but he retired pretty early. So like these big-bodied receivers, they don't last till they're 32. So you're probably looking at 1, maybe 2 years left of Mike Evans being a wide receiver 1 caliber player. I understand Jake's trying to go all in. I get that. But like, dude, you had no draft capital to begin with. Like these first was like all he had. And he just throws them both for a guy that's going to give him a year, maybe 2, and he's still not even the favorite. Like this doesn't even put him over the edge. It puts him in the playoffs probably, but you're still like 3 or 4 seed, maybe 5. I don't know. You're probably a playoff team, but like I don't think it puts you as one of the favorites. So like it's just like it doesn't make sense to me. Now you have no draft capital. These guys are going to be hard to sell. Like Mike Evans is going to be very hard to sell, especially not for half of what you just gave. So like I don't know. That just seems insane to me.
I don't mind the trade for Jake from a standpoint of like going all in and having that stack with Brady. Like that makes a lot of sense. It just seems like that's a trade you make in season, especially to send 2 firsts. Like when you're for sure, like I'm going to be one of the last teams in this thing, because the only thing I would fear now, knowing that he gave away his future with those picks, would be like you get into the season and, God forbid, but like an injury or something like that derails the season early on. And then you're like, okay, well, I have this stack that's good, but like you're not your outlook for that season might not be the same as you thought it was in July. So that's more so where I came at it from to call it a bad deal. I think like when I look at it for what it does to his team, I understand it. You know, it really shores up the wide receiver position and gives them that connection with Brady that's going to be very good this year. But yeah, like to do it now when you don't really know if you're going to, you can assume your team's going to be good, but you don't know for sure that like things will play out like you think they will the first half. That's where I could see it being like maybe too soon.
Yeah, it's weird timing and like, I mean, I was talking to you earlier, Ty, and like part of the reason I was so adamant in my deal about making it like a 2024 first, like people were telling me like, hey, well, your 2023 is probably gonna be picked 13 or 14. Like maybe you should do this year's. But I was like, it's the same type of thing. It's like Derrick Henry's old. He's coming off an injury. You know, Dalvin Cook's hurt a lot. I know I have his handcuff, but still, like I have J.K. Dobbins is on PUP. So I'm like, there's a lot of things that could still screw up my season. Like I have a stacked roster. But at least if something does go wrong, like I'll be bummed out for sure. But at least I have the silver lining of at least benefiting somewhat in the draft from those bad things happening. Like at least I have an exit strategy. You know, I have my own pick in 2023 still to get a better pick because these bad things happen. Jake doesn't have that. So like you just said, if something did somehow happen, which I mean, like I said, God forbid, no one wants injuries, but like he has no exit strategy. He's just screwed. You know, someone else is benefiting off his bad luck. But like rather than him getting to at least reap some form of reward for him being in a bad spot. So like I know Metry's kind of struggling with that this year, not having his pick. Like that's got to hurt a little bit, not being able to control your own destiny. And that's why I understood you getting your 2024 back. It's just like it has to suck, kind of having a bad situation happen and then not being able to get that draft pick to at least kind of correlate with those bad breaks. So it's just really risky. Like I just see a lot of ways that can go wrong.
Yeah. And then, he obviously did that deal, sent the first, but then doubling down on it to send 2 seconds to get Mike Williams, who's 27 and a very good offense.
And Van Jefferson. That was a great deal for you, Metry. That was your best deal of the day. Like I was very impressed. I was like, that is a great haul, especially your own second. That's going to be a top 2 or 3 pick in the second round. So, I mean, and we saw it just from this year, which this year's draft class was considered a weak class. And this first couple picks of the second round were still like John Mechie, Tyler Algier, like guys that are pretty solid. Like, and like I said, this was a weak class. So like 2024, we don't know what that class looks like yet, but that's going to be a pretty good second. That's going to be a top 17, 18 pick, So like, it's not just some like irrelevant back end second. 2025 second, that'll probably be a pretty good second considering his entire team is in a retirement home. They're all going to be out of the NFL by the time 2025 hits. So who knows where he's at then. And then Ben Jefferson's young and still pretty solid. So like that's a haul for Mike Williams. I love that deal for you.
Well, and I also like Van Jefferson because it's like if Allen Robinson goes down and they don't bring back Odell, which I don't think they're going to bring back Odell, I mean, Van Jefferson, I mean, he's a deep ball threat. And I mean, he might not catch, 10 receptions for, 89 and a touchdown or something, or 110 for a touchdown, but he might go, 3 receptions with like a 60-yard bomb and, give me some decent weeks. I can deal with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And I don't even think you need Robinson to go down. Like surely that would benefit him as the wide receiver 3, but they worked in target for him last year, like he had touches they built in for him and made sure to get to him. So like he has standalone value just as the wide receiver.
Yeah. He was flexing for Marcus several weeks, even when Robert Woods was healthy. And Robert Woods was getting those targets that Allen Robinson's going to get, and Van was still putting up, 6 to 8 point outings. I mean, he was inconsistent, but like he was a flexible player, and he's young, and he's pretty talented. And I think there'll be a demand for him if he ever leaves the Rams. So like, it's not just some sweetener type player. Like he's actually a pretty quality guy. So that's a good player to be thrown in there, especially for like your timeline. So love that deal for you, Metry. That was a really good one.
Yeah, it was I think I like trading with Jake probably the most out of anybody in the league, just because, I mean, he gave me the Kareem Hunt deal last year, which that on paper it looked good, but it didn't necessarily work out because then Kareem Hunt got hurt. But like, I mean, he is not afraid to go all in, and I respect it because, I mean, I'm kind of looking at my situation right now in fantasy, and I'm like, do I even need to have the app downloaded this year? And it's like I respect it. I mean, honestly, man, I might. How many weeks are in the regular season?
14, I think.
Yeah. I might go 0-14. Like, I'm not even kidding. Seriously.
I might beat you by like 60 points.
Oh, I think you're gonna beat me by 100.
Yes.
You're gonna beat me like 140 to like 38.
I'm not worried. I'm not even worried about JK missing week 1. Like, I was originally kind of
dude. You could leave 4 guys out of your lineup and still beat me, probably.
That's
I'm not super worried about week 1 now. Week 2 is Lucas, then it gets a little tougher. But week 1, like, I'm just gonna be enjoying. It's gonna be so great because I can just enjoy week 1, like opening day of football, and not have like the stress of starting 0-1. Like, it would take a miracle. I mean, I'm not saying anything's possible, but my guys would have to just fall dead. Like,
Matt, I'm not gonna lie to you. If I beat you week 1, you need to quit fantasy football for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Seriously. And give me every single one of your players.
It's pretty much a week 1 bye week. It's gonna be a nice, easy start. I'm happy about that. It'll be nice and non-stressful.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I think is so interesting about going into this is like year 2 or whatever is last year we didn't really know what to expect when we were starting. Like, everybody seemed like they had a solid enough team, and you don't really know after the draft, right? If we looked back at our pre-power rankings, like, I'm sure they were all kinds of, and I know we did. But this year, it definitely feels like there's tiers in our league. Like, this tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Like, I feel like it's very easy to see who are the big contenders, who could surprise. Like, you have your contenders, teams that could surprise, and then teams that are building for the future, like the productive struggle teams. So it's funny to see how quickly that kind of like shook itself out just over the course of one season.
Yeah, normally it takes like, I mean, granted, this is our first Dynasty League, but from what I've heard from other Dynasty players, like, normally those tiers start to form after a few years of just kind of like, drastic kind of changes.
We only had one rookie draft. Like, we haven't even seen a rookie class develop at all. Like,
I know, and we already have tiers. Like, it's pretty, I mean, there's a lot of teams that are good. I mean, there's a lot of teams like that definitely can surprise. James, Jake, Jeremy's team is still pretty solid. Austin's no scrub, so I mean, there's definitely some solid teams, but I think there's a tier of 3 right now, and that's me, you, and Brandon that are in a spot of just clearly, like, on paper at least, having the best rosters. And then, like I said, there's a lot of teams, Lucas, Marcus, they can still surprise us, and definitely be threats. But I feel like us 3 have pretty, barring anything crazy, like I said, injuries, we can't predict those, and they happen every year. But it's barring injuries, I think us 3 are pretty safe playoff predictions. Like, I have a hard time believing us 3 won't be in there.
Yeah, I mean, I would too. But like you said, any given Sunday,
anything can happen. Yeah, like I said, a lot of things can go wrong. So I mean,
like, I could beat you week 1.
Yeah, you never know, man.
Oh my gosh, Matt, that would make my year if I beat you week 1. I'm not gonna lie. Oh, I'd love it.
Dude, I mean, Cordero Patterson hung 50 on me last year, so who knows? Maybe that's Amari Rodgers' week or something. We find out he's Aaron Rodgers' go-to target, and he catches.
That's right. Screw Alan Lazard. I don't even need him. I got Amari, baby.
Okay, so what was the next deal we had to get to?
The next deal was mine.
Okay. Why don't you talk us through that a little bit? Because, like, obviously you were stirred to do that by trades that happened earlier in the week with other teams loading up. It kind of, and with that being said, I think you probably got, as far as like running backs go, the most dominant one that could be out there. So
yeah.
I know, like, you were pushed to do it, but being pushed to do it and getting the best guy that you probably could doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, no, I really, this deal was insane to me because, I mean, we talked earlier about it once again. Like, it's a wild experience because obviously the first initial like day of was just heartbreak when I didn't get Chubb. I was just so upset. I don't think it was until like 9 or 10 p.m., like late at night that night, I'd kind of semi-recovered, and was like, all right, I got to figure out what my next move is. How do I like keep up? And I'm looking at the guys that are all contenders or like, at least in that sphere. And I'm like, none of these guys are going to be willing to trade their good players. To me, like, they're all needing to be where they're at, like they don't want to give up. Like, James isn't going to sell out for picks. Like, neither is Jake. Well, he doesn't have any, they even I mean, he doesn't seem to care about picks right now. So I'm like, can't get any of his guys. So I'm looking at guys I can trade with, and I'm like, there really isn't any, except for Chris, Jordan, and I was maybe Carter, but I didn't really want Carter's running backs. No offense, Carter, but like neither of them really intrigued me that much. So I'm like, all right, I don't really have very many options of who I can go get to kind of like compete with what Ty just did. And then I'm looking at Traitner's, and I'm like, all right, I got Derrick Henry and James Conner. Let's find out about them. Because I hit up Jordan about Kamara and Jones, and he shut me down quick. Was like, I'm not looking to move either of them. I'm like, okay. So hit up Traitner, and he's like, we just kind of had some initial discussions. It seemed like we were fairly far off at first, but he was like pushing for Mooney hard. And I'm like, okay, well, I definitely would throw Mooney in a deal. Like, that's fine. It's Derrick Henry, it's not the, it's not the end of the world at the end of the day. So, for about a day or two straight, the deal was just going to be like Mooney in a first, for Henry. Like, that's what it seemed like it was going to be. And I was ecstatic. I was like, all right, I'll take that deal in a heartbeat. I sent it immediately on Sleeper. I was like very dead set, comfortable with that deal. But then he's like just not responding, kind of ghosted me for a while. I'm like, did he lose interest? Kept following up with him. And he eventually just kind of texted me, and he's like, dude, I kind of figured that since me not really responding to you meant kind of like that we didn't see eye to eye. And I was like, okay, well, how far off are we? So I made a couple of modified deals with like Renfro, but adding in more seconds, like making it like a first and 2 seconds, and then Renfro. Just kind of like just did some things to see if I could keep Mooney while just giving up more capital. Wasn't interested in those. He was like, no, it has to be Mooney. And just kind of like, and then I find out, well, Chris lied to me. He told me that there were a couple other potential suitors that weren't even interested. So he was trying to leverage me for me to throw in even more. So that kind of like was frustrating. But then, like it just kind of comes to pass, and I hear that there's a couple other guys making offers. He puts them on the trade block, and a lot of people are like, giving it the eye emoji. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, people are going to start bombing him with offers. Like it's just going to be Chubb all over again. I'm going to lose another one, and it was so disheartening because he wasn't responding to mine. And so I'm just like thinking it's pretty much over, basically giving up on it. Well, he eventually texted me, and he's like, if you throw in a second, I'll probably do your deal. And I'm like, originally there was going to be 2023 first and Mooney, but I'm like, dude, the only way I'm going to throw in a second is if it's my 2024 first and I keep my pick for this year. That's the only way I'm doing it, because I want to have like control of my own destiny this season, And so kind of like I thought about it long and hard, and was like, at the end of the day, this second's not going to make or break me. Like it's probably going to be a late second, most likely, so it's not likely going to be a deal breaker pick. So I'm like, I need to get the deal done. If this is what pushes it over the edge, just go for it. So I sent that, and then about 7 hours go by of him not responding, ghosting me again. And I'm like, all right, well, I offered him exactly what he said he wanted. Still not taking it. At that point, I was just kind of like done with Chris. Then I'm on the road going up to Nashville this weekend, and get a notification that a trade's been completed, and was 100% confident that I was not in the trade that the notification was about. Like, I did not think it was me at all. I opened the app, and sure enough, he accepted it about 7 hours later. Never texted me about accepting it. Never said like good deal, or never gave me any inclination he was actually going to take it. He just hit accept randomly, and boom, Derrick Henry was on my team. So kind of a crazy like couple days of events, but overall, man, I'm really happy to have him on my team. Like, I think if I'm going to respond to Nick Chubb with anybody, it'd be Derrick Henry. I mean, he's one of the most dominant running backs. Probably would have been a top 5 or 6 pick in redraft this year. I don't see any reason of him being a bad player, So it definitely looks a lot better having Dobbins on my flex instead of Mooney, and having Derrick Henry and Dalvin as my running back. So I know my team got older and lost some draft capital, but I mean, I felt like it was a fairly safe deal, and definitely puts me as one of the top guys.
Yeah, I mean, for being all in, I don't know if you could have gotten a better running back, because Derrick Henry is an absolute beast.
Yeah,
and he's the only thing they have now. So like,
he's their offense. Their offense is Derrick Henry, and I mean that scares me because he's probably gonna get like 350 carries like he always does, and like I said, that's gonna be great for my year. Like, but it also increases the risk of injury and also shortens his career lifespan. Like if you take that many hits, you're not gonna be able to be a good running back in your 30s. Like it's gonna be this year and maybe next year if I'm lucky. It's gonna start catching up to him. So that kind of scares me. Just how much workload he's going to get. But for this year alone, he's going to be amazing.
Yeah. Well, definitely kept yourself in that probably top contender spot for Brandon's title just because of that deal. So, I mean, it's hard to argue with that. So,
Yeah.
glad you were able to pull something off and turn something around to get yourself back there. It's just an arms race, man. It really is. Like, people are loading up. I'm
AFC West.
interested to see who's next. I mean, I know Metry's got Waller on the block right now, so I think there's still something to play out there. If I can imagine anything, I'm sure you're looking to move all those aging assets you have. So you might see.
Yeah, I will trade. I'll put this out here on the video. Waller is definitely up there. Send me your offers, and I will definitely highly consider them. Matt, you can even send me an offer, and I'll even consider it. I know that we might not be on the greatest of terms.
I don't know what I have right now that I would actually want to move. My roster's either insanely good or it's draft capital that I don't have right now. So it's I don't know. I've thought about it. I really have, but I just don't really know what sounds like a fair deal to me. So we can talk more about it in the future. We're not going to do it on the video, but Waller's probably going to be on the move.
Let's negotiate a trade on the Huddle House. 3 minutes.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do a deal with you right now. Matt knows my asking price though. That's the thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's an asking price. I mean, I'd have to think about it, but I don't know about
it. Yeah.
I mean, obviously I know Waller's good, but he's also. I mean, I'm already really old. I'm honestly kind of scared to get even older. So.
And you have Schultz right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, I mean, like, I'm comfortable with Schultz. Like, I mean, I do think Waller's better. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to disrespect Waller by saying Schultz is better. But, I mean, I just don't know if it's, like, a drastic enough jump for me to, like, go all in and make another really ballsy move. Like, I don't know about it. I might be
drastic. I think it's pretty drastic. I mean, I'm a big believer. I think the one out of, like, the big three of the Raiders offense that's going to drop off this year, I think it's going to be Renfrow. I think we're going to throw the ball a ton, and Renfro is going to be the guy that gets the least amount of targets because I just think that obviously Waller isn't like the typical tight end that you see with how fast he is in his hands. And, like, it's no disrespect to Hunter Renfro, but, like, we're not going to throw the ball to Devontae Adams. Like,
no, he's getting the most.
I think we might throw him the ball 350 times this year, seriously. And I might be lowballing it. And, it'll be interesting, by the way. Also, for those of y'all who don't know, big sports betting guy, and I put $100 on the Raiders to win the Super Bowl this year. So, yeah.
Nice.
But right before we end the show, I know we're running out of time.
Yeah, we got a minute.
Impartial third party here, Metry. We've kind of talked about there being 5 teams here with Matt, myself, Brandon, and then Jake and James. I want you to give us your top 5 rankings after this past week and all the trades that have gone down before we go off the air.
Man, that is tough. Oh, because I think you two and Brandon are like, I mean, it all honestly depends on, like, it might be like just a matchup kind of thing. I would have to give, and this is saying that everybody's healthy, I'd probably have to give the advantage to Ty. I think your running back depth is ridiculous.
I mean, you got 15 seconds. Who else?
And then Matt, and then Brandon, and then I would go James, Jake.
All right. Sounds good. I'll see you guys later. Enjoy the show. Peace. Have a great one.